Good day to you. My name is Victor Shea and I'm IAPH's Communications Director. Welcome again to our Risk and Resilience stream. During this session, you will be able to interact by placing your comments and questions in the chat, which we shall try to address depending on time availability. You can also revisit the session on demand afterwards on this event site. We shall be talking in this session about technology as an enabler of resilient, efficient and green supply chains and putting theory into practice. With me today are Marjolein Salins and Dimitri Lauras from the Port of Antwerp. Marjolein is the project coordinator and Dimitri is the business analyst of the Epicenter project. This is a project funded by the European Commission under the H2020 Fund for Research and Innovation. It is a big consortium of 36 partners in Europe and beyond that join forces to work around the digitalization of logistics supply chain operations. We also have the Director of Business Intelligence and Innovation, Daniel Olivier, joining us online from the Port of Montreal, who is also involved in this project. If I might start with you, Marjolein, could you tell me a little bit about Epicenter?
Well, of course, Victor. So, as you mentioned, we're a very big consortium of 36 partners. We also represent a very broad spectrum of different stakeholders. So we're not only ports, we're also technology providers, academic and research institutions, and also the end users or the industry are represented within the project. What we do have in common is that we all wish to engage in digital transition of our supply chain transport operations to become or to have more efficient, more resilient and greener logistics operations in our ports and in our companies. What is important to mention is that what we really want to emphasize is that we involve also the end user in the project, okay. Because that's important because we really try to apply the solutions where they are needed. We're really aiming to support them in the challenges they are facing on a daily basis in their operation and their strategic decision making. Okay. Maybe it's a good idea to give you some examples of what this would mean. So, for instance, with the beverage multinational AB InBev, we are finding ways to improve the hinterland connectivity for to and from different production sites in Belgium. Okay. Together with Den Hartog, a leading logistics service provider, we are trying to create a better visibility on the chemical transport flows. And we are doing this by consolidating different data sources and really trying to create this single source of truth for the different business partners. The example of DHL and Panasonic, for instance, there we also try to focus on a better visibility, a more optimal network configuration, really on the rail link between Europe and Asia. And there we also try to consider environmental parameters in the decision-making process. Okay. Maybe a last example is at one of the logistics sites of Volkswagen, a big auto manufacturer. There we are simulating a Hyperloop scenario that works on improving the distribution of the supplies between the different warehouses. Oh, between the warehouses. Yes. Okay. But maybe we can watch the project movie together, which will explain very well what the project is all about. I think that's a great idea. Let's do that.
The future holds major challenges for global transport networks. Volumes of transported goods are ever increasing, and the processes behind it are becoming ever more complex. We live in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, where unpredictable events require maximum resilience and fast, well-coordinated reactions. Both society and the industry need to become greener. We share a responsibility to protect other species in the ocean, especially in sensitive areas like the Arctic. Worldwide, customers want their goods delivered faster, cheaper, and more reliably. This puts pressure on profit margins and the competitive position of supply chain players. Luckily, there are also plenty of opportunities on the horizon. Our global logistics network needs to become more resilient, efficient, and green. Digitalization will be crucial to accomplish this. Where is the cargo? What's its status? Today, this data is hard to access and exchange. Through strong technical architecture, standards, and governance models, Epicenter aims for end-to-end visibility, while allowing stakeholders to retain ownership and control over which information they share with whom. With increased visibility, we can make logistic processes more efficient and greener. Algorithms will calculate the best options for freight movements based on available data, considering emissions, urgency, cost, and capacity. Ships can navigate to minimize fuel and impact on marine animals. Visibility and synchromodal algorithms take a major step towards the physical internet concept. Considering new trade routes and advanced technologies such as Hyperloop, autonomous vehicles, and innovative modularization prepares us for future scenarios and decision-making. New logistics models and sophisticated network simulation algorithms will help us understand future freight flows in ports, cities, regions, and the world. In close collaboration with end users, the following Epicenter demonstrators will be thoroughly tested in real-life scenarios and environments. Aiming for visibility and efficiency, this demonstrator focuses on links and connections in the logistics network for transatlantic, Europe-Asian, and intra-Europe trade flows. Some use cases cover day-to-day operational efficiency and environmental benefits. Others tackle more strategic questions, like optimal network routing based on real cost, capacity, and environmental footprint. These use cases explore the potential impact of changes in network configurations within a multimodal hub or port considering new technologies. In a large industrial area in Germany, we're testing a Hyperloop scenario to improve the efficiency of local distribution of components. In Sweden, we're experimenting with autonomous electric vehicles and the freight mobility platform to monitor and plan their optimal use for freight transport. And in Spain, terminal operations are addressing the issue of equipment imbalance with modular containers. Taking into account weather and ice conditions, real-time navigation and AI-based propulsion algorithms will help minimize ship energy consumption. An innovative, environmentally friendly navigation module will tackle Arctic-specific issues like noise pollution, impact on wildlife, and whale collision avoidance. These techniques will be relevant for many other sensitive ecosystems worldwide. Epicenter is a Horizon 2020 funded project which unites 36 stakeholders, including international ports, industry partners, logistics operators, manufacturers, technology providers, and researchers across Europe and the global community. Along the way, the consortium will reach out to other partners and areas to explore the benefits of Epicenter solutions for developing regions, formulate specific recommendations about the global and 10T network, and build a collaborative innovation bridge connecting startup ecosystems from different ports. Stay tuned for the Epicenter progress and results.
Okay, if I might turn to you, Dimitri. On data sharing and governance, creating visibility on cargo and transport flows to ensure that different stakeholders know where the cargo is and its status is very difficult to achieve. Mm-hmm. How do you plan to get partners to share data and information? And what about cybersecurity?
Yeah, it's definitely true that there are some barriers which limit the willingness of companies to actually share data. It could be that they see the data as commercially sensitive, so that in sharing it they might harm their commercial interest. On the other hand, it's also technically sometimes difficult. They might not have the skills, the technology available to share it, and many more reasons. So to counter this, we think there are 3 things that we will need to offer in the project, and that is trust, simplicity, and security, as you mentioned. To get trust, there's a few things we'll do. We'll use a layered approach when data is shared. So when a company offers data, we will not just share it with anyone. The data that a Ports Authority might see will be different from what a competitor will be seeing.
I see.
This to ensure your commercial interests will not be harmed. Secondly, what's unique is that we want if you share the data, you retain the ownership. So you stay still in control of who actually gets to see it, even after you've given it to us. So it's not just a free pass. And then finally, to prove that, we will be using auditing so that companies can see these parties have actually accessed my data. Secondly, there was simplicity. There are a lot of parties involved in the transports. So if you actually have to make the complete puzzle, there's a lot of connections you would have to be making. We want to offer simplicity by offering that connection through one party that you connect through, and that technical party will be connecting to all the others. Finally, on safety, of course, I mentioned cybersecurity will be very important. Then we will look at, for example, the IMO has guidelines on cybersecurity. There's also the ENISA guidelines. But also very importantly, one of the consortium partners that you can rely on to offer this data sharing layer will be Nextport, and they have a lot of expertise in that as well.
Okay, well, that sounds like a comprehensive plan in that respect. But how do you actually optimize these transport chains dimension?
Yeah, well, once you have that improved visibility by sharing the data and getting a complete picture of what's actually going on, where is my cargo, what is the current status, but also what are my alternative options actually if something does go wrong, you can start orchestrating transport more efficiently. So, for example, if there's an unexpected event, you'll be able to react to it a lot quicker. If my ship arrives late, I can look for alternatives quite easily. It is important to mention here that when we talk about optimization, we will not be talking about just the classic parameters, let's say, like cost, speed, reliability, but we really want to look at sustainability and ecology as well. As we said, Epicenter wants to make supply chains greener, so this will be an important aspect. Now, one element to this is CO2. We're definitely looking at that, but that's becoming more mainstream. But there's other things, like as a good example, in the Arctic, of course, emissions are one thing, but there's also the harm that you could be doing with the choices you make on routing or the speed to environmentally sensitive areas. So that we also want to make more visible, so that you know, during this time of the year, for example, this kind of whale species is breeding here, and the noise that the ships make might actually be harmful for them. So you might want to do slow sailing.
Right.
So that's something, and that's really want to encourage that as a project to look at that aspect as well.
So it's taking optimization to a whole new level, I guess.
Yeah.
Bringing both Danielle and Marie-Laine here, I'd just like to ask how ports such as Antwerp and Montreal see their role in this project. Marie-Laine, for Antwerp?
Okay, well, yeah, I think definitely all the epicenter ports, being Algeciras, Duisburg, the port of Hamburg, Montreal, and Antwerp, acknowledge the fact that this digital transition is a very important tool or means to become more efficient, resilient, and greener ports. And I think we really want to play a leading role in enabling these green innovations to take place within our port environments, and really provide an environment where different stakeholders can experiment, where we can demonstrate new technologies, really being a test bed for this green innovation. And of course, we want to make sure that our clients can operate as smoothly and efficiently in our ports as possible, with a low impact on the environment or the ecosystem surrounding our ports. And I think we all agree that synchromodality, new transport technologies, other data-driven digital solutions are really key, or are really the pillars to make this a reality. But to achieve this, we of course need collaboration. We need collaboration between the different stakeholders, between the industry, between the ports, with the academic world and the technology providers. So also as community builders, we really want to connect these different stakeholders, but also engage in this collaboration and be part of it to really achieve these goals of becoming greener, more efficient, and resilient ports.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And even though this is a European project, the Port of Montreal is also involved, Danielle. Can you tell us why and what you are planning to contribute to the project?
Certainly. I think firstly, there are very strong commercial ties between Montreal and Antwerp. Montreal traditionally has been the gateway for European cargo in and out of Canada, and Antwerp plays a big role in that. not only Belgium is one of our top trading partners, but 1 out of 4 transship containers in and out of Montreal go through Antwerp. And these volumes are obviously expected to grow with CETA, with such strategic commodities like agro-food growing. So obviously from a commercial standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to have a transatlantic corridor as the proof of concept for this project. Secondly, there's a long-standing partnership between Montreal and Antwerp. Since 2013, we've had MOUs in place, and we now have an MOU that's 10 years long. So we're very committed to that partnership. It's an MOU that has innovation as one of its pillars, and we see Epicenter as advancing this collaboration in very practical terms. So exciting things coming out of that. Finally, I think Montreal is emerging as a center of excellence in artificial intelligence. It has a very strong and rich ecosystem of startups, strong institutions, and also an international talent pool that allows the port to have actually developed a leadership in artificial intelligence. And very happy to say that we've implemented AI in almost all aspects of port operations, whether it's predicting truck turn times 24 hours in advance to help truck drivers better service the port, whether we are developing algorithms to dictate optimal rail movements, or even on the ocean side, better predicting vessel arrivals. Even on a humanitarian level, we are using AI to identify COVID critical cargo on board vessels and fast tracking them to market.
Really?
So, so I think Montreal, in a sense, has a strong innovation DNA, so to speak, and can contribute in that sense on its innovation. And in the end goal is to really make our ports more fluid and greener.
Oh, well, that's very clear. We've heard a lot of tech terminology thus far. Dimitri, maybe you can help me and explain what is meant by synchromodal planning and optimization, and perhaps give me a couple of examples how this might be applied in the project.
Okay, yeah. We talked about optimization before, and synchromodality really aims to take that to the next level. Currently, transport is really a lot of upfront planning, and it's very difficult to actually react to events and as they occur. And to make transport more resilient, we will need to be able to do that. So that's what we try to do in synchromodal planning. So it's going to be more dynamic and responsive to change. And of course, to do this, you will need the data to know what the options are, what the events are occurring. And as an example, say your vessel is coming from Montreal to Antwerp, and the plan was to use a barge for the next connection. But you notice that the vessel is going to be late.
Yes.
And you need to find other options because the barge will not be waiting. So you dynamically reroute it, for example, to a train which is still available in an appropriate time slot. Now, of course, sounds simple, but in reality, to do it for the entire transport chain, it's extremely complex because with all the different modes of transport, with the different ports and all the connections that you could be using, the options that you have are actually nearly unlimited. And on the other hand, you need to make the decisions really fast because you do not have days in advance to replan. So that's where we're looking at AI also, for example, and new algorithms to make those decisions fast enough so you can actually start implementing them. And we will be experimenting, as Marie-Hélène explained, with end users and with the Port of Montreal in practical cases where we're looking like how can we make this work and how would it work.
Right. Okay, but then I'm thinking, Marie-Hélène, how do you make these solutions future-proof with all this technology coming in?
Well, we have different project partners who add in their expertise within the project, really profound expertise in these new transport technologies and also in new emerging trade routes, for instance. Also here to give some examples, the partners working around Hyperloop can, for instance, simulate scenarios to see what the impact would be on the congestion levels around the different ports. We are working on automated electric vehicles in implementing them in logistics hub and what could be the effect of such operations, on the efficiency of that hub, but also on the environmental performance of that hub.
Oh, okay.
We're also looking into modular containers. Can they provide, to a certain degree, an answer to the imbalance problems that we are facing, for instance?
Well, that would be very much accepted in the current situation.
It's,
yes.
indeed. So also in terms of new trade routes, as Dimitri has also already mentioned, we're looking into Arctic navigation. How can we do this as safely as possible, but also with respect for the marine and land ecosystems that are surrounding that, or that are present in that region. So the models that are developed there for navigation will also be considering, for instance, changing weather conditions, ice formations, but also where are the ecologically sensitive areas, most vulnerable areas, and how can we protect them and take this into consideration in the navigation.
Okay, well, thank you for that comprehensive answer. I guess more concretely, what's next concretely up for Epicenter? Because it sounds like a very big project.
Yes, it is. So we just finished the first project year, so we're going to start the second one as we speak, actually. And in this second year, the focus will really be on the development, on the preparations of the different demonstrations that we want to undertake. And so I really hope that by this time next year, we will be able to showcase already some results, some success stories, hopefully, about the project. Maybe important to mention as well is that our project is not, so to say, a closed shop. It's really open for other partners or organizations to learn from.
I'm sure that would be
when
of
we
interest.
are developing things, methodologies, publications, but also the algorithms that we are defining. We really make sure that they are also transferable to other scenarios, to other operations, and even other territories.
Okay, well, that sounds very good and of great interest to our delegates. Danielle, if I might turn to you, you made a very interesting point that perhaps 1 in 4 of your export containers get transshipped or get involved in the port of Antwerp. We've talked in the past about memorandums of understanding between ports, but what I'm getting the sense of here is that this is taking data collaboration potentially to another level that brings ports, so to speak, from different continents a lot closer together. Is that the feeling that justified? That I'm getting?
Yeah, certainly, Victor. I think once upon a time, MOUs were photo opportunities and a paper that was signed and put away. The world has changed. I think, first of all, digital is forcing ports to rethink partnerships. I think from a market perspective, at least, innovation has become a differentiator in the market. So, and it's all about really leveraging data and smart solutions to make our ports more business friendly, more fluid, and smarter. And so I think from that perspective, it makes a lot more sense to move into a multilateral sort of collaboration form versus bilateral, as MOUs did in the past, as ports are moving away from traditional, collaboration axes like infrastructure management into managing data and managing data infrastructure and exchange.
Yeah.
So, I always say that there are 3 flows in logistics. Money moves well, cargo moves fairly well, maybe not so these days. But one thing that doesn't move well is data. And it makes a lot of sense for ports to come together, like Chainport, for example, the Association of Smart Ports, to look at a common agenda for digitalization. And obviously, with more data circulating, there's more risk. So
Yes.
coordinating also their cyber resilience and cybersecurity agenda makes a lot of more sense in a multilateral forum.
Right. Thank you for that, Daniel. Well, thank you, Danielle, Dimitri, and Marie-Hélène, for the window into the future. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about Epicenter. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found it of great interest. I certainly did. And enjoy your rest of day at IAPH 2021. Thank you.